So here I am after 15 fairly intense hours with Council this week. We've had 4 fairly long meetings to discuss some really interesting issues, and I have to say, as a thank you to Council, that they were truly engaged in all the issues, and I think we've come up with some really excellent plans for the future. In 15 hours, I'll try and reduce it down to about 3 minutes just to give you a snapshot of really what we discussed. So the first meeting, we had a meeting of the RCVS Trust, where we talked about a number of things, but the 2 things that really stand out to me are that we looked at the purpose of the Trust going forward and what we should really focus on. And in particular, we've decided that knowledge is really at the heart of what the Trust is about, both in terms of historical knowledge, looking at the historical collection, current knowledge in terms of the library that we have, but future knowledge in terms of evidence-based veterinary medicine. And so as such, the Trust Board also made a decision to change the name of the RCVS Trust to RCVS Knowledge. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that we then had a meeting of the full council to talk about the first-rate regulator initiative. Now you might remember that this initiative is about looking at what we're good at, what we can improve upon, and also looking to the future, how we should change and evolve. And as such, there are 3 elements to this that we really focused on, and again, Council provided a great deal of support and encouragement for. The first thing is to be much clearer about our identity. Who are we? What do we stand for? And we certainly agreed, I think, very much that we're here to set, uphold, and raise standards in veterinary practice. The second area was to look at service. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I've dealt with a monopoly provider, I've not really enjoyed it very much. And so the challenge for us as a monopoly provider, you have no choice other than to be registered with us, is to provide the very best service we possibly can. And we're looking at a number of ways in which we can do that. And the third element of that is that there is a reform agenda to continue, and we need to look at that as well, so that we are best placed to be a first-rate regulator going forward as well. The third meeting was the full council meeting, again, the following day, where we talked about a number of things. And the first thing I should mention, which is the really good news for you, is that there won't be any registration fee increases for next year in terms of the retention fee. Now that will be the 4th year running that we haven't put fees up, and I'm delighted that in my time that's been possible to do again. I might add that Lord Trees mentioned in that meeting what great value for money he thought the Royal College was to members, and I hope that you agree with that. And if you don't, please challenge me and come back and tell me what we can do better or differently. The second part of what we talked about, and we spent very little time talking on this, which I think is very good news, is that we fully endorse the independent panel's recommendations for the LRO changes. In other words, the new disciplinary committees and the PI committees. And that went through without much discussion. We gave full backing to Sir Michael Buckley, who's been running that process, and I'm delighted to say that that will now be up and running from July onwards. And then I come to the final meeting, which was just last night, where we looked at the practice standards scheme and some really engaging reforms there. And they are entirely based on what you have said to us in a number of surveys that we've been working with you on. And it comes down to trying to create some greater flexibility in the system for practice standards, but also simplicity as well. And so there are 2 major reforms that we're looking at. Firstly, that core standards should be mandatory for all practices. They are part of the code, and therefore we and the profession believe they should be mandatory, and people should be inspected upon them. But the second thing is that practices have wanted to differentiate themselves between each other, and also as the profession lives up to its image of wanting to continuously improve, also to provide a basis on which practices can improve. And therefore we would like to introduce a bronze, silver and gold approach to the way that practice standards are implemented. So that's the summary, really, of 4 fairly long meetings, 15 hours in this room. I'm just about still awake, but I wanted to come straight to you to tell you precisely what we've been up to in that spirit of openness and transparency, but also to give you a snapshot, not the full 15 hours, but a snapshot, hopefully, that hasn't been much more than 3 minutes. This is the first broadcast from a post-council setting, and I hope if you enjoy this, we'll do more of them. Thank you.